coaching destination.
Right.
This team is pretty close to just being kind of ready. Like they're not
Hmm.
championship ready. That's not what I mean, but they're all in their primes or getting close. I think they're going to win quite a few games, probably be like the 6th seed somewhere in there. And I'm not even saying I particularly am high on the Pacers. I just think that's where they should have been last season. Like they're
Hmm.
better, they're way better than they played last season. Having a coach that everybody does not hate outwardly, so much so as to have like assistant coaches fighting with him on the sideline, I
Right.
think that's going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, Rick Carlisle is definitely a great shout. I think, when it comes to him being with the Indiana Pacers, I'm curious to see whether or not they're going to, there's rumors, of course, of the Ben Simmons trade. And of course, people are asking for a lot more. The 76ers are asking for the whole farm. So we'll see. I think if we'll see what happens. I think Sabonis is going to take another step up this year. I really like the way
Yes.
that he plays. And, I think this is going to be a very fun season, I would say. I think one coach of the year that I might give a shout out for, I wanted to give it to Silas from the Rockets, but I'm just not sure how good the Rockets are going to do this year.
Yeah. I like in theory I like the pick, but I just don't think they're going to win very many games,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
But here's a coach that I think I will shout out as one of my coach of the year. I think that this team is going to greatly improve, and we'll talk about it in our preseason and prediction show. I think this coach of the year is a candidate is probably going to be one that I don't think a lot of people are going to think about because this team, is kind of on the up and up. They just drafted, um, some promising players the last couple of years. You're seeing the team finally come to fruition. And I think this is going to be a make or break it year for him. And we can go with the boring options like Udoka. We can go with the boring options like oh my god, Budenholzer. We can go with Eric
Yeah, just some of
Spoelstra.
those
All
for
those
sure.
things,
Those tried and true guys.
the tried and true. But here's going to be my surprise pick. I'm actually going to go with James Borrego from the
I like
Hornets.
that pick. I like that pick a lot. I
I
like
think
it a lot.
Borrego from the Hornets, man, I really like the way that he coaches his team. And I think this is really his make or break a year because if he doesn't do anything with this roster, which is very talented, has a lot of promising pieces on it, if he can't do anything with this squad, then I think this squad is going to be in trouble. And they're
Yeah.
going to fall down fast, and they're going to probably go down the same Atlanta Hawks route and try and get somebody that's a veteran and try to get them in. So I got to go with James Borrego from the Hornets. I think he's going to be a great coach.
Yeah, I like that pick too. And I think in terms of like a make it break it season, I think you're right for a couple reasons. One, they actually have some promising players on their team finally, and
Hmm.
they don't want to wait too long. I think a lot of these teams understand how much of a death sentence that can be to like keeping young guys
Yeah.
on their squads happy is keeping bad coaches around too long.
Hmm.
Um, but that being said, I think one thing that makes Borrego's situation a little bit special is how much time they've given him. It's
Yeah.
really, really uncommon in a lot of the leagues nowadays, but especially the NBA, to let a guy have a few losing seasons like that. And I know that sounds silly in a league where the process is the we talk about that all the time, but that's not the normal. Like
Right.
that it isn't really. There's a few teams where it's the normal, and sometimes, that might be Charlotte, right? They haven't been good in a long
Hmm.
time. But they really have let James Brago try and coach his way and let him stick around for the long haul. Let me give you one more guy just because other than Rick Carlisle, I was kind of torn between these two. And I know I said I really like Nick Nurse too, but if I had to pick another guy, dude, Nate McMillan with the Hawks.
Nate
I'm
McMillan with the
sorry.
Hawks.
I just think there's a lot of potential for that team to go up another level, win even more games.
Oh, okay. We're gonna
And
have.
let's say, and I say this not as a Hawks fan. I'm not a real true believer, maybe, of their
Ooh.
process, like some people, aka you, might
Hey, hey,
be.
hey,
But I do think they're good, man. I think they're a really talented team, and I
Mm-hmm.
think there's so much in flux in the East right now, and it's going to be a really competitive conference.
Yeah.
Maybe more competitive than the East has been in like a decade. Um, but yeah, I mean, Nate McMillan, imagine this guy becomes interim and then he, takes him to the ECF, and then the next season they're the 2 or 3 seed. I think they'd be pretty hard pressed not to vote for him. A few people at least.
Exactly. I think Nate McMillan definitely gets a good shout, especially with the way that he turned around that Hawk season from
Hmm.
going from not even making the playoffs to and the Eastern Conference Finals, which is something that a lot of people did not expect. Um, a lot of people expected like the 76ers to take care of them. They took care of the
Yep.
76ers and they made all the way and they made it to what? A game 6
Game.
or game
Yeah, I
7,
think
I
so.
think.
Against who? Yeah,
The Bucks.
yeah, I think so. I
Bucks. I
believe
think it
so.
was game 7.
I think
If
it
I'm
was
not,
6 actually.
was it 6?
I might be misremembering though. I don't think they went to 7
Yeah, it
back
was
to
6
back.
games. I mean,
Yeah.
if Trae Young doesn't get hurt, we could be having a different conversation.
Well,
We could
well,
talk
you
about
could
the
say
what
that for a
ifs.
few players
Yep.
too, because think of like DeAndre Hunter's healthy, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a lockdown guy on a team that didn't have a lot of scoring options besides Giannis.
Exactly.
So it could have made the difference. So I think their team is only going to go up. I say that as a sad Knicks fan because they're kind of our rivals, weirdly enough, all of a sudden. But I think
Yeah.
they're going to get better. I think they're going to get a lot better, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And there's other teams we can shout out, but I know time is limited. So why don't we move on to most improved player, Pete? Most improved player for
Yes.
you. Who do you think it's going to be?
Oh gosh, dude. All right, so I've been thinking about this award more than any other one. I'm not kidding. Because I have a homer pick that I want to pick,
Julius
and
Randle
there's a
again?
couple. No, honestly, I really think RJ has a really good shot. RJ Barrett, that
RJ,
is. I
okay.
actually think he has a lot of room to improve, and I have seen all of the building blocks to truly improve at the things he struggles at. Um, and he's going to be on a really good team. Like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't want to get my hopes too high. I really don't think we're going to get the 4 seed again. But that being said, I think somehow we're probably still going to be even better and maybe not even get that high of a seed. I just think the East got healthier and better in general.
Mm-hmm.
But the pick that I've seen fly out a lot, and I'm not going to say this guy as my pick, but I think it's almost like too easy, is OG Anunoby with the Raptors. I
OG
think that one is
Anunoby,
almost
okay.
too easy. I know Zach Lowe over at ESPN, one of our colleagues, you might even say. I
One of
know
our
he
colleagues.
picked OG Anunoby, and I know I've seen a few people pick him. But if I had to pick anybody, man, I really am so torn between a couple people. I'm gonna go with the Hawks because I was just talking about them, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Bogdanovich gets it.
Bogdanovich, okay.
I wanted to come up with somebody that I haven't heard anybody say, but also somebody that just has actual potential to do something crazy. The second half of last season, if you go watch Bogdanovich's tape, he was arguably just as good as Trae Young for stretches. Like
Mm-hmm.
he was really, really important to that team. And if he can do that for a full season, people are going to notice. I think that's a huge deal. So I'm going to say Bogdanovich as my pick, but oh man, that's really just because I don't want to be a homer and pick
RJ Barrett.
RJ Barrett.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's my homerisms.
Man, we got a lot of Hawks love from Pete. This is rare, man. This is
Not
this
for
is
long.
rare.
Don't worry, not for long.
It's gonna come back to reality. I'm assuming in
Yeah,
the
we'll
predictions.
we'll come back around. Don't worry.
um, but nevertheless,
What's
let's
you?
yeah, me. I want to say, and I've been saying this probably since his second year, after probably his worst start as a rookie, and this is probably going to give it away. Um, I want to say my most improved player, and before I say that, Sean, you said my most improved player is Daniel Gafford. Don't sleep.
That's
That's
actually
a pretty
not
good
a
one.
bad pick. Honestly, Daniel Gafford has like a defensive player of the year potential. Like
Ooh,
genuinely, he could do that. So you're not crazy. Continue, Bernie. Who are you going to say? I actually don't know who you're going to say. Are you
I
going to say
I,
Bagels? Marvin Bagels Jr.?
no, Marvin Bagley
Oh,
is
okay.
he's stuck
I'm just
in
kidding.
no man's land. But
I'm just kidding. I didn't
if
think
I
you were
did
going
have
to
to
say
pick somebody, it's gonna be like a very tried and true pick. But I'm gonna pick Lonzo Ball for most
Oh,
improved player.
dude, I thought I was going to be crazy when I gave him as my backup. I thought you were going to think I was nuts. Yeah,
The reason
I
why
actually, yeah,
I
go
mean, the
for it.
reason
Sorry.
why I say Lonzo Ball is because When I look at Lonzo Ball and kind of like how he was treated in New Orleans, to me, it frustrated me the most because you could see the potential with Lonzo playing with Zion when Lonzo had the ball and being able to assist Zion Williamson, get Brandon Ingram the ball. But as soon as Van Gundy went to more of the Zion and Brandon Ingram bring up the ball, then it felt like Lonzo's impact wasn't necessarily felt on the court. Like, yes, he can shoot the ball and he has improved as a shooter, and you can see the motion now of it. It looks fluid, it looks solid. Something I wish a certain other player would do. But um, again, I see the improvement from Lonzo each and every year, and I think this is going to be the year. After 2 years ago, I said most improved player. I really do think Lonzo Ball is going to be most improved because when I see the impact that he made on just the preseason stuff that I've been watching, you can see that he's going to be a really good player. And the reason why I wanted the Celtics to sign him is because I think he can make a huge impact for that Bulls team and really get Zach LaVine in the better positions to get DeMar DeRozan, who, whether we question whether or not that was a good signing or not, you can put him in the better situations and better scenarios. And man, I really see like potential Lonzo Ball breakout star type of season from him this year.
Yeah, I like I said, I honestly he was my second pick. If I was going the non-homer route of not picking RJ, it was between Bogdan and Lonzo. And the one reason I will say why I picked Bogdanovich over Lonzo, I think the most improved award it's really tied not only to most improved player, but your team kind of overachieving too, right? Is that like a
Mm-hmm.
trend that I just think of, or is that maybe something else other people notice? I feel like, you know, Julius got it because the Knicks greatly overachieved. If they
Mm-hmm.
still sucked and he played the way he played, he probably wouldn't have got it. It's that simple. It's the junior MVP award as far as like you're the most important to the most improved team, right? Um, so for me, I think part of the problem with Alonzo is I'm really not very high on this Bulls team, and I'm sorry, Justin. I know you're a big Bulls guy. I personally I need to wait and see it. And there is a great chance that they're much better than I think they're going to be, and they're in the 5-4-3 range of seeding.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it. But if they are, it's probably going to be because Lonzo stepped up a little bit more. He took another step up. I picked Bogdan for my explanation, which is I think the Hawks are going to be even better,
Yeah.
that's my rationale. But you can't go wrong with
Yeah.
Lonzo on that one.
So let's see. Sean said he had 3 blocks in the first quarter of the Wizard games right now. Gafford will be most deserving, but no one cares about the Wizards, so he won't picked. Bookmark this tweet. Sean, why don't you tweet it out from the Twitter account and put intern next to it?
Yeah, do it. I like it. And honestly, you're not wrong. I still agree. I agree with you. The Wizards, if they overachieve, I'll tell you now though, he might get mentioned if they overachieve. The problem is they usually don't credit the defense enough, which kind of hurts. Kind of hurts. Because if anything, like some of the defensive improvements you see from some guys, I mean, like that's worthy of most improved. It's usually just the scoring game that gets rewarded, though.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens, man. This is going to be, like I said, I think a fun year for, I think, a lot of teams, and we'll see what happens with the Wizards. The Wizards are going to be a team we'll obviously talk about. And so we're going to see what happens for these awards. It's going to be a fun one to see what teams are going to, stand out. And you are right, Pete. Like whatever team overachieves or what team is like really doing well is going to, uh, eventually get those awards. I think it's kind of
Can I
clear.
can I give you a deep, deep, deep sleeper?
Yeah, give me the
Just a
deep
deep
sleeper.
sleeper. I was thinking about it just for purposes outside of just talking about it. Maybe putting some money on things. I was just thinking about it. What do you think about Malik Monk?
League Monk. Interesting.
Most improved. What do you think about him? What if he like Malik Monk can score no question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you put him on an actual good team with actual good passers and ball movement. There's honestly a world in which he's like a 16 or 17 point per night kind of guy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
say he does that and he gets a starting spot somehow on this Lakers team. I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. I just think he has the potential to do it. He's a deep sleeper. Just keep an eye on it.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I like it. I like it. Why don't we move on to defensive player of the year? Because I feel like rookie of the year is another fun one to kind of leave off besides MVP. So let's go to defensive player of the year, Pete. Defensive player of the year. This is, of course, an award for players that play great defense, whatever defense you can really play in the NBA. But there are some people that do make some really big impacts in that category. And, Sean has talked about one for the Wizards and Daniel Gafford. I think you also said it as well, Pete. So who do you think could be like the biggest impact on defense this coming season and win that award? We could talk about the Rudy Gobert's, the Ben Simmons, like those names will always be kind of associated with this award. But is there anybody else that you're picking for this award?
Yeah, say this was a normal season in terms of the Sixers and more so just Ben Simmons. I actually
Mm-hmm.
would have picked him. I picked him last year. I actually still think he should have won last year, Defensive Player of the Year. But
Mm-hmm.
all that being said, I don't think he's going to win it with what's going on right now, lest we get into that conversation. We don't need to. You guys
Yeah.
all know it. So that being said, I don't think it can be Rudy Gobert again either. Maybe it can. I just don't think it can be, dude. Like, how many times can this guy get played off the court in the playoffs before we realize like the regular season defense is it's
Mm-hmm.
something else than when they're going full on, right? Like I think that needs to be accounted for. It has to. You can't lose to a team with their best player missing and get absolutely wrecked on defense if you're the defensive player of the year. You can't do it. I don't think you can. I think it's crazy. So I'm going to say somebody that hasn't won one before but has potential to, I think, and if he stays healthy, he really can do it. I don't think he's won before. I know he's been talked about in a couple years ago when he stayed healthy. His biggest problem is staying healthy, and that's Jonathan Isaac on the Wizards. Not the
Jonathan
Wizards, the
Isaac.
Magic.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm getting my magical teams mixed up. But yeah, I think Jonathan Isaac is one of the best defensive players in the league. And if he wasn't a rookie, I would have picked Evan Mobley. And I still like that. Honestly, I still like those odds. That is totally assuming the Cavs maybe are a little bit better than people think. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing for the Magic. I think Jonathan Isaac not only has to stay healthy, they have to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And if they don't, he's definitely not going to win it. But say he's on the court playing at defensive player of the year levels all season long, and they have Jalen Suggs and some of these other young dudes out on the court. I don't know, man. I could see it happening.
Yeah, I think defensive player of the year is a tough one because we talked about the Ben Simmons and the Rudy Gobert's, and those guys will always be in that conversation. Just due to the fact that everybody talks about how well they do on defense. They obviously make an impact at some level, but you are right. At some point in the playoffs, I feel like that's gonna be kind of what happened to like LeBron James in a sense, where like those guys will get overlooked for other guys because those guys continuously like they're good, but then it's like they get stuck at the playoff level, and then it's like, do we really vote for this guy? And it's kind of like the same. It's like they don't want to vote for the same person like so many times,
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
and so I think another player that I could see potentially winning Defensive Player of the Year is another young center. Depending on what happens, with this team, you talked about them for Coach of the Year. I really think that Miles Turner could potentially be Defensive Player of the Year. I like the way that he plays defense. He's a 3-and-D at the center position, which obviously is a rare thing to see out there. But I really do like the fact that when I see Miles Turner play, he's always in the defense. He's a guy that can move a little bit quicker than Rudy Gobert, but has the ability to block shots at the same, maybe a little bit less than Rudy Gobert, but still being able to stay in front of their guy defensively. And that's why I got to go with Miles Turner. Another guy that I would want to say, but just depends on his health, is Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis, it
Yeah.
all depends on his health.
Yeah. I really like the what's his name? The first one you said.
Miles
Why am I
Turner.
blanking? Yeah, I like that pick a lot. That that like you said, that goes a lot with to have a better coach in a team that plays to the level maybe they should. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
huge. Um, couple of guys I just mentioned really quick. I actually love defensive player of the year. I think it's super important, and I actually think, and I'm not going to get on the Rudy high horse. I think giving it to him so many times recently, it honestly devalues the award for a lot of people. I don't necessarily know if that's justified. I'm not saying it is one way or the other. However, I do think that people care about it less because he keeps winning it. Whether or not he should win it or not, I find that to be interesting. However, the two people I did want to bring up are these. One, I mentioned him briefly. Evan Mobley is already one of the best defensive players in the league. He already is. I said it
Wow.
all through the draft. I thought that was going to be the case immediately in the NBA. And from what I've seen in the preseason, I think I was right. Not saying I'm the only person saying it, but the guy he can do things that there are no other player on the NBA, on any NBA court that can do. He's Rudy Gobert, except he can defend out the 3-point line. He could defend full court if you need him to. He is that good. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
However, my other pick, uh, and this is another guy I wouldn't necessarily pick as the number one, but also I kind of downgraded him because it's a bit of a homer pick for me as a Knicks
Mm-hmm.
fan. If Mitchell Robinson can stay healthy, he has potential to do it. He
Yeah.
really does. He's that good. He changes the game when he is in there playing defense, stopping shots. And for some reason, the way that Coach Tibbs' defensive schemes work, it manages to draw a lot of guys into the paint. That's why Nerlens Noel ended up with such a big contract, is because he had to play a ton of defense in Tibbs' systems, and he got a lot of blocks because of it.
Mm-hmm.
But say that's Mitchell Robinson for the whole season, a better Mitchell Robinson, a bulkier. Have you seen him?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he's huge. He's put on a ton of muscle. And if he can stay like that and stay healthy, he genuinely does have a shot too. I thought
Yeah.
about him long and hard as far as picking him for this one.
Yeah.
For me, it's always about what's the big reason why he might not, and it's the injuries. He's
Yeah.
constantly injured.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of things to talk about for Mitchell Robinson. I'm hoping, like you said, can stay healthy, can hopefully can contribute in some way for your team. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and defensive player of the year, it'll be interesting to see like what the critique is for that, and seeing like guys like Ben Simmons. Is he going to play this year? That's the biggest question right now for him. And Rudy Gobert, it's like, are people tired of picking Rudy Gobert every time for that
Yeah, and
award?
I think a big part of this award, it's very similar to what I said about the most improved player. It's very
Mm-hmm.
similar. If
Yeah.
the team is really great on defense, they're going to look to give the award to somebody who's really great on defense on the great defensive team, right? They're not going to give it
Yeah.
to the guy who's the best defender on the worst defensive team in the league. So, that being said, I think that actually does add a lot for Mitchell Robinson. Like, I think that, and that being said, the same thing for Miles Turner. Pacers play good defense, dude. They really do. They
Exactly.
work hard. I like it. I think my pick, I might have picked like an actual real sleeper as my. I'm a little bummed with Jonathan Isaac. Let me change Jonathan Isaac. You know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put Mitchell Robinson. I said it.
Mitchell Robinson. All right, I'll change it for you.
I actually just feel better about that in general. I think there's a much better shot of it. And really, if I'm saying what's the reason why these guys might not win the award, it would be the same thing for both of them. They can't stay healthy.
Yeah. Why don't we move on to Rookie of the Year? This is another one that's exciting. Before we go, Justin, you said trying to get tickets for the Bulls Knicks on my birthday, October 28th. D Rose, Taj, and Tibbs, plus they're all going to be honoring Joakim Noah that night. Wow.
Nice, dude.
Talk about
I
talk
mean,
about a reunion.
yeah, hopefully honoring more of the Bulls Joakim Noah than the Knicks Joakim Noah, but that does sound sick. That sounds like a lot of fun, dude. Hopefully you get those tickets, man. Happy early birthday, too.
All right, Pete, Rookie of the Year.
Oh my gosh.
Sean, you said
Um,
Jonathan Isaac will most likely stand Trump.
so let's make that a new award. Um,
Rookie
Rookie
of the
of the Year.
Year,
Now,
the
this is a
Roy.
really tough one because we've been saying it for a while, Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
Watching some of this preseason stuff, dude, I'm even more confident how good this rookie class is going to be. There is a lot of dudes that are going to be good in this draft class, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And when you look back at last season, and let's say you look at the top 10 of that draft, minus LaMelo and Anthony Edwards up top, you might have 8 busts out of the 10 from last year. You might. It kind of looks that way. I'm not going to say it kind of looks that way. It could go that way based on what we've seen from those 8 guys. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. Rookie of the year. This one is really tough, and I'm gonna pick a guy I don't think you're gonna think I'm gonna say, but I think it's because he's gonna impact his team the most and their team is going to be better than people think they're going to be, uh, in large part due to this guy's defense. I think it's Davion Mitchell.
Davion
That's my
Mitchell.
pick. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've been genuinely. Maybe I'm just the defense guy. Maybe I like defense more than I think I do. But uh, that guy is special on that end of the floor. He is not. He's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of guys in the built like he is to play defense. And one thing that's super interesting about the way he plays defense is that he makes defense so exciting that people are talking about it and watching their games to see him play defense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you look at King's Twitter, that's what it is. It's like let's watch, him put the clamps on this guy tonight. Like book night, dude. I love book night. I still think he's going to be one of the best players out of this draft class. That being said, go back and watch that dude. Like the clamping that Davion Mitchell put on him, it made him look like a high school player again. It was terrible. So Davion's defense, I think, is going to make the Kings better as a result. And I actually we'll get into it more when we talk about team predictions. I think they might be kind of frisky, dude. I think that team isn't as bad as some people think they are.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would love to say like defense is kind of like where everyone should go. The only problem I have with that though is that I just think that the Kings are not going to be one of those
And
teams that
let
fights
me
in
add
the
one
playoff
more. Let
spot.
me add one more thing. I think he's going to play to a level where they realize that they can't keep all these guards on the floor, right? They just can't keep them all on the floor. It's too many. And with that being said, I think I'm just making this prediction. I've said it a few times on the stream. I think he's going to play himself in a fashion where De'Aaron Fox is going to get moved for somebody
Hmm.
eventually.
Okay.
Or it could be Halliburton too. Maybe they just really love De'Aaron Fox and they decide to stick with him. But one of those two guys is gone. And I think it's De'Aaron Fox based on contractual stuff.
Yeah,
And
and they just
who knows what they get back?
yeah, and they just
Who knows?
they just picked up the option for Tyrese Halliburton, so
Mm-hmm.
he is I feel like they're gonna stick with him and kind of see what they can get for De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, so
Um,
my pick is based a little on that theory that the Kings have some potential trades that they should and could make.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, rookie of the year, Davion Mitchell. I think that's a very good shout.
Oh, I like
Uh,
Sean's. Sean's pick is really good in the chat too. He was in my top three.
Scotty Barnes. Yeah, like Scotty Barnes to me, like I just feel like they have those guys in Toronto. Like they have like three of them. Where I feel like maybe
Yeah,
maybe Barnes is
he's
a little bit
different.
different, but it just to me it feels like OG, Pascal, and Barnes are kind of like that similar. Maybe it's just because they're similar size and length, and that's kind of the reason why I'm going with that. Um,
Yeah, maybe. Dude, I think he's way better than those guys are. And I'm saying this like I think OG is good. I think he's gonna be way better than him. And a big thing for him too is just that leadership that he has on the court. I mean, dude, he's calling plays and running the
mhm.
offense when they have the ball. I like the pick. It's the same thing I keep saying. I like the pick because I think the Raptors going to be a lot better than they were last year. And a lot of it is going to be focused on him being there, but it's not all due to that either,
Yeah,
circumstances.
yeah, which is why I think it's as much as I would love for this award to kind of be, right, or like as much as I would love to kind of pick um Davion Mitchell or like Scotty Barnes, I think the guy that's going to win this award is going to be the most offensively gifted player. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's going to be Jalen Green. Like, I think offensively, the guy is an instant bucket no matter where he's on the court. He gets a shot off, he can score anywhere on the court. And I think that does bode well for a bunch of rookie of the years. I mean, we saw LaMelo Ball the same way. I think the
Yeah.
last rookie of the year that was kind of defensively oriented was maybe like Ben Simmons, um,
Yeah. He had non-rookie Ben Simmons. Yeah.
non-rookie Ben Simmons, and probably should have been Donovan Mitchell, but we move. But
And
that's where
yeah.
I just think that Jalen Green he's just too offensive. I would say Cade, but the problem with Cade is that I don't think the Detroit Pistons are going to be a good team.
Yeah. See, and that's my problem with Jalen Green too, honestly. And honestly, uh, there's a few of those guys. Like you know how much I love Mobley too. I am not sure they're going to be very good. So that's why I stick away from him.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with this award. Like I said, there's a lot of guys. Giddey looked good. Apparently, I saw. He's kind of a questionable pick for the Oklahoma City Thunder, but he looked okay in his last game. Again, that's just one game, but Kuminga, depending on what his impact can be on that team, probably
Never
won't be
know.
much.
Yeah.
But
I
you never
mean,
know.
going by your metric too, like my guy Book Knight could be in the conversation. Like he is offensively very talented. The problem is I'm just not so sure about that Charlotte team. They got
Yeah,
cooked the other night by Memphis. So
they did.
we'll see. We'll see.
Alrighty, let's go to MVP. Last award.
Let's do it.
MVP. This one was won by Jokic last year. Obviously, did not leave an MVP performance on the court by karate chopping somebody. Whether that was fair or not, or whether the player sold it or not, is another topic for another day. But Pete, who is your most valuable player?
Oh man, this is such a tough question this season. It's really, really tough. Um, based on looking at the odds, I find it so crazy how sure people are of certain things. Like Nikola Jokic is like everywhere I've seen, he's like the eighth most likely person to win the MVP. And my question, and I'm not saying I'm going to pick Jokic, but my question is like, why would it be any different than it was last season? Like
Yeah.
Jamal Murray isn't there. He's only going to keep getting better. He's still a young guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I say it's so tough. Like everybody's so sure that it's going to be Luka, and you and I are two of the biggest Luka guys I know for since anybody had even heard of the guy. So I'm not saying because I don't think he can do it. I just don't think the team is going to be good. Like I
Yeah.
worry about that Mavericks team so much. Like KP can't stay on the court to save his life. The second best guy besides Luka is Tim Hardaway Jr. and Jason Kidd is their coach. That team has absolutely like meteoric disaster levels of like worry. I think I would have that much concern if I was a fan of that team. So all of that being said, I think Kevin Durant is going to win the MVP this season.
Yeah.
I think especially with the whole Kyrie taking a step aside for the vaccine concerns,
Yep.
just playing with James Harden and a bunch of role players. And say what you will, some people might think that's offensive to certain guys on the team, but look at where a lot of those guys are in their career. They're role players playing with two superstars. He is going to score like in just boatloads. Like he might average 31 or 32, I think. So I think you say all that, and if they can both stay healthy, they're going to be the 1 or 2 seed. I'm picking KD. He's got to win one more. They got to give it to him. And this season makes the most sense.
Yeah, I just think narrative wise, like I'm a fully in agreement with you. I just feel like the narrative of KD right now is like, he
It's
has
too
to.
much.
It's too much, the Kyrie stuff, and they're like, oh well, he had to deal with Kyrie, and I feel like that's where I want to say I'm in agreement with you about KD, and I think I am gonna pick KD because like
Yeah.
I just feel like the storyline and the way that he's just an instant bucket. The only thing that concerns me about KD, especially going to a full 82 game season, is he going to be injured during that part
Yep.
of the season or any part of the season, right?
That's
Because
the, I mean, that's the
he's had a
question
lot
for
of
their whole
feet.
team.
He's
Yeah.
had a lot of feet issues, a lot of foot issues. Like there's always something wrong with his foot when he's playing, and then he's out for like a couple weeks, and then that's kind of like what his injuries have been, and especially later on in his career when he's getting a little bit older, isn't as young as he once was. I just feel like those injuries are going to start to pile up at some point.
I mean, definitely. And that's kind of why I think the thing with the MVP award that I think eludes a lot of people is this award is probably like 65% narrative based.
Yep.
Like it almost doesn't really matter what your stats are because you could in theory win the award with 28 points a game and there's a guy that scores 31 or 32. It's happened before and it's going to happen again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, all that being said, when you look at the narrative of what's going on, KD is not only starting one superstar on his team down, which is already kind of like bonus points if he brings them to the point of
Yeah.
being able to win a championship. But not only that, I think last season for KD was important in the sense that for a lot of, I think, casual fans, I think it cemented his place like alongside LeBron, right?
Yep.
And I think that that's foolish in the sense that he already was there, he was been there
Hmm.
for years. But I think for the casual fans, seeing him in Brooklyn, seeing him make these crazy game-winning shots in the playoffs, go to game sevens down on his own, basically, I think that really changed the narrative for KD.
Yeah.
And honestly, say what you will, I think the Kyrie thing is going to help him a little bit too. Playing with a guy like Kyrie, and if they still manage to get the 1 or 2 seed, that's all he needs. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I actually, if I had to pick number 2, I'm not even kidding. I think I'd pick Harden. I think they both have
Oh,
1
wow.
and 2 potential. It could go either way. Whoever plays better stays healthier the longest. You know.
Yeah.
It I think it's either of them.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I just think like with the way that like you said, the narrative is just there. Like it's gonna be people really very sympathetic to the fact that they think whatever you think of Kyrie Irving,
Yep.
they're gonna think that he's selfish. They're gonna think that he is someone that only cares about himself. And they're gonna kind of say like if the Nets are struggling but KD is balling like that, I feel like that's just a recipe for KD to win the MVP. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you got Stephen A. last night on his Twitter account being like, I got some people speaking on behalf of Kyrie. I'm gonna go at them, and it's just like, I just feel like that's just gonna be fuel to the fire for KD's MVP kind of
Yeah. I mean,
coronation.
who knows where that narrative goes, right? Who knows how messy that's gonna get? What is gonna potentially happen if Kyrie even comes back this season? Like, all of that is gonna make a huge difference. And maybe it's just how sure I am of KD as a
Mm-hmm.
player. I have almost no doubts that if he stays healthy, this team is 1 through 3 seeding in the East, in a
Exactly.
better East. And if he can do that, the casual fan, like, he can do that. We know he can do that. The people watching this in the chat know he can do that. The casual viewer doesn't necessarily know that. And when they see it, the narrative builds up even more. And that's when people vote for him. So, yep. There we go. I'm glad we agreed on something.
Yep.
I like it.
What's kind of interesting though is that like most of the picks, besides like the rookie of the year, are all in the East.
Ooh. Maybe like, yeah, that is interesting. That's very interesting. But I think a lot of that has to do with a lot of the awards going to the West, I feel like, usually, you know?
Yeah. I think a lot of players are starting to. I think a lot of players are starting to not do the LeBron route or like the KD route of like, joining up. I think like maybe like the people that are from the era of like KD and LeBron and that type of like 2010 to like
Yeah, it's
27.
gone.
I feel like a lot of people are starting to kind of go their own ways and not be on like a super team as much. Like maybe we might see that in the future for some guys, but for the most part, everybody's kind of stayed on their own team and is kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah. Like, let me ask you a question. And I don't want to get too deep into the Kyrie conversation. I really don't, because there's too much talk about it already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, that being said, my question is this. When you look at that team and how it was formed and this premise of like all these kids being fans of KD and Kyrie as like individuals coming together and kind of making their own destiny, right?
Right.
Like, I feel like that was the narrative of this team, was like these guys are kind of lone wolves and they do their own thing and
Mm-hmm.
they're friends and they want to be happy, right? And now we
Yep.
look at it and it kind of seems like it's not really what it was cracked up to be, right? And a lot of that is like external circumstances bleeding into the team dynamic.
Right.
But I think that that's probably pretty important to some people to see like it didn't really work. It wasn't sunshine and roses from day one and it stayed that way. Those guys have played like 30 games together, you
Yeah.
know? So when you look at that, like, I don't know, man, there probably is a changing perception of I don't really want to end up like KD and Kyrie and be in this weird, awkward dynamic where we're covering for each other.
Yeah.
The same, and I know these guys didn't choose to go play together, but the Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid falling out publicly probably matters too. Like that
Yeah.
stuff changes people's perception of playing with your friends or being with people you're close to. And I know that that's not really the same as Kyrie and KD, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I agree with you. I think the perception is changing, definitely.
Yeah. Sean, you said Giannis MVP. His jumper looks nice. To be honest with you, I haven't seen too much of Milwaukee Bucks
I
games,
have watched very little of the Milwaukee Bucks.
which is kind of crazy because they just won the MVP or they won the championship. But
Yeah, we saw a lot of them though.
I definitely will be checking them out. Obviously opening night, I think they're going to be playing, so it'll be a fun thing to watch them and see what they are able to do. But Pete, I think it's time.
Let's do it.